Hoje os gringos reagem a uma festa popular no Brasil que os americanos acham muito, muito esquisita. A festa dos Confederados em Santa Bárbara do Oeste, São Paulo. There are all kinds of popular festivals all around Brazil, and Brazil's incredibly diverse, and there's different music, and it's often sort of either African or indigenous inspired or Portuguese. This one we're going to show you today is extremely different from just about any other one. Are you familiar with any old American expatriate communities around the world who have sort of maintained any American traditions over the years?
I did once celebrate 4th of July in Costa Rica with some expats.
This is a different kind of expat. This is a festival by the descendants of those who fled the Confederate South after the Civil War.
Really? Interesting.
It's a little known chapter of Brazilian history that at the end of the Civil War, some of the defeated farmers of the South left and went to Brazil, where they were welcomed as expert cotton producers. And there are still traces of some of these communities. This is the most famous one, and every year they have what I can only call the Confederate Festival.
Oh, dear Lord. The interesting thing is once you move out of the U.S., it ceases to connect the same meaning to the people who are seeing it necessarily, I would think.
Right.
If you are alive in a time of this much information, you have to know that the Articles of the Confederacy were tied to superiority of one race over another. I mean, you have to know that because there's too much information and you're an adult.
I should also say, I found this video on YouTube, a guy who visited it. I don't know his channel, but I know a bit about this, and I think all his information is fairly accurate. So I've sort of just left the video intact and put the translations into the subtitles and, just watch and comment, and at the end, comment some more.
It's intriguing and a little scary. Okay, they start with a tank. That's a bad sign.
Wow, this is so much Confederacy stuff.
He looks Brazilian.
He is. He's not one of these Confederates.
Oh, okay.
He's a travel, YouTube guy.
Wow, he knows they lost the war, right?
I'm just kind of flabbergasted that this is a reality. This, is making me not feel good. Okay.
Como é que eu achei lugar onde você pode usar esse boné numa boa, sem ninguém achar que você é maluco?
Without anyone thinking you're a lunatic to wear the hat.
I'm so uncomfortable just watching this and knowing that this exists in a different country, not just in the south of the United States, but that this exists in another country.
That was one of the worst eras of history. Their uniforms looked awful and hot.
So would you expect to see this in Brazil?
No, not at all. I'm surprised.
I mean, in a way, this is beautiful, and I do think it's important to have an ability to tie back to your cultural roots, but...
Wow, everybody's got the Confederate hat on, too.
I mean, if you ask them, they would say this has nothing to do with race and that they... or slavery or anything like that. This is just their ancestors and where they came from.
Now, do they go to a theater and shoot Abraham Lincoln? That's what I'm wondering.
Wow, and all of the dresses and the clothing, the apparel is very American.
If it's a festival celebrating the southern South of the U.S., their food better hit a certain limit of fat and sugar and butter. If they don't have that, then it's not accurate.
They do sell fried chicken. That's pretty good.
I will say that all of these names that you're seeing on these tombstones are also names of members of my family.
I'm trying to be considerate and thinking about Native Americans and when they do their festivals and their big celebrations. Those are beautiful and those are important because it is a heritage that is being lost. And it's necessary to educate and to keep people informed. But this is... in my opinion, it's not okay.
This is amazing. A lot of Americans would not love this.
And they maintain Southern traditions? Did they have slaves in Brazil?
Yes, they had slaves past the time when the U.S. had slaves.
Is that part of why they went back or went down to
I don't
Brazil?
know. That question I don't know how to answer, sorry.
Is this widespread, or do like only a
No,
small amount of people
This
like
is
this?
this is the only town where this exists still.
Okay.
I'm horrified.
I really hope that people understand the more of the history behind it than just their family piece.
I feel like Hitler's maybe a little too extreme, but others would disagree. But it's almost like knowing that there were a bunch of Nazis who got to go down to, I don't know, like Italy or somewhere in North Africa and settle a town and celebrate.
I mean, if there's not at least one part of this where they're like, oh, we really screwed up when it came to black people.
Yeah, there's no part like that.
If they don't do that during the festival, then it's not history. It's dogma.
Well, listen to this.
Oh, John Denver is rolling over in his grave right now.
I guess I'm trying to interpret it as a celebration of sharing a culture and not really sharing what the culture stands for, hopefully.
Well, you know what? That actually makes me feel a little better because in the United States, it almost feels like if you have a Confederate flag, it's going out of your way to kind of be
Right.
like, I don't like a certain type of people based on the color of their skin or more. And I think sometimes people claim like, oh, it's because of history. It's really not used in a way.
Just to tell you what they told me when I went down there, we weren't exactly in our current situation in the United States, but they said, look, we don't even, they're like, people are always coming here, like reporters and whatever, and asking us, or foreigners come like from the U.S., and they say, what are you doing? And they say, look, it's just, it doesn't mean anything to us besides our, our ancestors who came over here. And by the way, they spoke English there. The older people there still speak some English, like natively.
This is such an interesting story. Wow.
It's not a world where you can go to Japan and still find somebody who thinks World War II is going on. Like there were those guys who got lost and thought
Yeah.
the war was still going on.
Right.
Yeah, if that was the case, then I'd be like, okay, I get why these people wouldn't know. But you can't. I mean, this guy said the word history 72 times in this clip. Unless you're acknowledging all of it, it's not history. It's story.
It was funny when I was 16 and I went over to Belgium. I had my host father ask me why I let the Native Americans get slaughtered. And I was just kind of like, and then also 16, he's like, why are you allowing your president to do all these horrible things? And I'm just like, what are you talking about? And so I think it's kind of that same thing. It's things that happened and it is one's past, and it wasn't so much something that I chose to do, but because of the current climate, it's really uncomfortable. And because in the United States, we're like, no, the Confederate flags, like all of that is not a culture we want to support. And so I'm very much coming from that perspective. Whereas for somebody else, it's like, it's my history. It's not like who I am today. It's a weird,
Well,
complicated.
There are those who would say we shouldn't celebrate Thanksgiving because it celebrates an alleged peace between the Indians and the colonists, and that didn't go so well. I'm curious, if you were to meet them or to go to the festival, what would you ask or what would you say to them?
I would ask if they understand what it means in America, although that could be kind of insensitive. It is also something that is very controversial. And yeah, I'd be interested to know a little bit more before I made a final decision on, judging what they're doing. But as of right now, I'm a little bit angry.
I think I would ask them what it means to them, because it's specifically a symbol of racism in America or slavery in America. And I think I'm a little better with it, knowing that, like, it reminds them of their grandma. But the other part of me is like, dude, your great-great-grandfather, like, sucked at war. Like, he's terrible. You need to up your general game. It's very weird as an American to see that. And it's right now, it's more than ever, really just any remnants of it that were still left in America are now, like, quickly being kind of shown the door.
Yeah, look, I've seen the Brazilian flag, the American flag, the Confederate flag, like that happens 2 places in the world. That happens in this place right here and at a Walmart in a town that likes soccer in America. Those are the only 2 places, and both of those places I'm not sure I would ever want to visit.